Okay.
Well, I was just watching it right before this.
Mm-hmm.
And I only watched like the first half, which is interesting to do right before talking about it. Because the second half, everything that happens on that ship with Hal and everything, and then the ending is so big. And it shrinks in your memory, the first half.
Yeah.
But the first half is a very important. It's interesting because it's not unlike Full Metal Jacket, that there's a first half and a second half that are kind of cut off from each other. Right. They're related, but one sets up the other. It's not story that continues into the second half. It's a mini story that informs what you're about to watch.
And also more emphasis those parts, you know.
Yeah, and I mean the first part of the movie is about this guy, Dr. Joyce, who his story just ends. It doesn't get any conclusion. And Kubrick isn't that interested in him as a person. Mm-mm. He gives him one personal scene where he's calling his daughter, which is made so to make it clear to you, don't worry about this guy. He's not a father who has issues. He's not like in a bad marriage. He tells his daughter, I can't make it to your birthday. And it isn't like a bad dad moment. Because she's like, I wish you could. And he goes, yeah, well, I can't. I can't. Daddy can't be there. But the thing that amazed me about it, this is what I wrote. First of all, the pigs and the monkeys together. I don't know how he did that. It's not clear to me how he accomplished any of this in 1968. I don't understand how he had these monkey people, obviously in suits, but really good ones. Amazing. Better than Planet of the Apes.
Yes.
Like
that's
5 years later.
And that's the movie. Apes. Yeah. The apes this is a space movie, and he has better apes than the ape movie.
Yes. Space and apes is a thing that Americans, we even sent apes into space. It's a thing that's very interesting.
Future so these apes,
so there's apes, and there's pigs all around them, and they're yelling at the pigs, and the pigs aren't leaving, and I don't know where they got these weird pigs that I don't know where they're from.
It looks like tapirs, I believe. I think
that what it is?
I think they're tapirs, yeah.
And then there's a wildcat that kills a fucking guy. I don't know how they did that. And it has yellow eyes. Yeah. I don't know how they got a wildcat to attack this guy. It's not CGI. It's not a puppet. It's not clay. It's fucking real looking.
Yes.
And then this movie has feeling because these beasts are scared in the cave. They're staying awake because there's roaring. And they look depressed. And they're traumatized and scared. And then when that thing comes with the weird people going, this is why Kubrick was just weird. He was a weird dude. And he suggested a aura of energy with a chorus of people singing, and you see the apes trying to touch the thing. And at first it's sort of too hot to touch, but then they're able to really smoothen it. And then he has this incredible restraint, because just as that scene is warming up, it cuts. It's just suddenly over. You don't really resolve it. And it goes back to these quiet, peaceful shots of this fucking probably Joshua tree. And you're left going, what the fuck happened? He's willing to do that. And most filmmakers today won't do it because audiences have demands, and they say, I want it to be clear, and I want to know what's happening. But he goes, we're just starting to show you this, and now we're taking it away from you. And you're going, what the fuck happened? And it keeps you a little nauseous and unsure, keeps you from digging into the batting thing.
It's
carefully.
I mean, it's the natural convention of having human beings to identify with in the opening of a movie.
In fact, the very opening of the movie is like an orchestra tuning up, and it's the suggestion. There's black before you see MGM. There's black, and you just hear this pulsing. You just hear the strings, and then you get the MGM logo. This is something pre-MGM logo.
Yeah.
And then the boom, boom, boom. And it has a theatrical opening. Stanley Kubrick, 2001, and all this thing. And then you get this really strange sequence with the animals. And the thing like Joe was telling me when we were talking about it before, the novel explains a lot. The novel's very clear. The novel's very detailed and precise. And what Kubrick did with cinema was to say, let's take out all that clarity and replace it with mysterious ambiguity that makes everyone's brain decide a different thing about what they're seeing. I think that's the greatest thing about his work of this kind.
Yeah.
Bastard in this hotel room, but none of that is in the film.
No, and Kubrick says he wanted to suggest these things. He wanted to give people a feeling of this stuff cinematically
visuals,
instead of explaining it. And it wasn't meant to be like, oh, well, that's not what people saw, so we did it wrong. He kind of just gave you these brushstrokes to give you that feeling. And this monolith is left totally unexplained and mysterious, something you couldn't do in cinema today unless you got at some point explained absolutely everything. I was talking to my girlfriend lunch about how weird it is that we all walk around with these rectangles. How strange it is that we walk around with black rectangles staring into them. They rule our whole lives. And she pointed out that it's like the fucking monolith. It's like almost exactly the same thing, and it excites us to aggression.
It is.
Like,
right.
You look into this long enough, you're going to pick up a fucking bone and hit somebody in the face with it.
And it does push us forward as a civilization while also
It does.
drawing us
well,
back.
there's a very specific moment in this movie where the monkey throws the bone in the air. It's almost corny, but it's good. The bone tumbles through the air and it becomes a spaceship. And then this beautiful music starts, and it kind of suggests that there is beauty in our aggression, that our aggression leads to things that are celestial and beautiful.
But
and
it also
both weapons also.
Yeah.
And also weapons at the same rate.
Language. It becomes so much more powerful with those.
Yes,
with those moments.
and then he has this sequence to get you to the moon that takes a long time. And it's plodding and it's slow, but there's a point behind it, and especially for the time it was made. When did we land on the moon? I don't know.
No, this actually came out a year before the moon landing. The moon landing.
Yeah, so we hadn't even been there yet.
Which is crazy
And
that this movie came out.
There were space movies. There were spaceship movies, but it was just about the kind of boyish, like silver, and like, turn the laser beam on the thing and monsters. They weren't serious movies. None of them were. And what he does here is very meticulous, which is the first thing that takes you out there. There's two different ships that he travels on. One of them is like a little airplane because it has to make its way through the atmosphere because it's meant to fly with wings. But the thing that goes from the space station to the moon is just a ball. And it's a completely different world than the spaceship that has airplane seats with fucking jet blue fucking screens in the seat. I mean, it's so exact. I want to know what movie he's watching, but he's watching a movie on a screen in front of the seat in front of him. It's precisely like today's seats in movie theaters. I mean, on airplanes. And it's not NASA. It's Pan Am, which is an airline I remember flying when I was a kid. And the Hilton has the hotel at the thing, and Howard Johnson's. And they wash the dishes in a whirlpool. Like, he's very important to him to show that it's going to be the companies are going to get people out there, not the government. Even though the government was putting people on the moon.
Well, also, like,
it's really mind-blowing.
Creepily omniscient, yeah.
No, the way that with playing with gravity and playing with relative motion and the flight attendant walking in the upside down, which I don't know how he did it. In today's cinema, I don't know how he did it. It looks so good. It looks better than a lot of modern effects.
Yes.
But the fact that he takes such a long time to get you out there and the logic of how he does it is so precise. And the massiveness of the space station that they fly into, it's bigger than any science fiction. They had never made something look so big, and it's followed logic, and it very elegantly showed how you would take advantage of the fact that you can walk this way and then this way and then this way, and he just shows it so slowly that you believe you're in space when you get there. You don't need to just go, okay, it's a science fiction movie, space, blah blah. You go, I'm fucking there. It's a heavy investment that at the time must have been staggering because nobody had ever seen anything like it.
And because I just think people eat food
You gotta eat.
I just think people eat food.
No, but I noticed that I wrote down the sandwiches because that was a bit, and the sandwiches are like this big in the screen. He's like, anyway, when we get to the thing, and there is one. It's the only logic problem is that he's pouring coffee in a moon thing, and they're weightless, but he's pouring
it doesn't drip
whatever.
out. Yeah,
But yeah, there's something in those sandwiches of kind of yellowish, weird bread, but they're really I think it shows a normalcy. It because these aren't space people.
The mundaneness.
These are corporate people. These are managers, and like this thing, the shuttle that he comes to the moon on, it spins and all this crazy stuff happens. But he's sitting there with a briefcase,
right.
and then he calls his daughter and he says, "Hey, Pipsqueak," and also when he goes into they do the immigration, it's global entry. It's exactly the same
Right.
as when you come into the country.
This
It
is high
captures
level.
excited by it, which is true for life, here.
Well, yeah, like I'm sure they gave him options for like the first drawings they sent him for like the inside of the space station that goes in circles in the Earth orbit, that the inside was all bumpy and lots of lights flashing. And he was like, no, it's a hallway of a government building.
Yeah.
It's a immigration way station. But the floors should just be gently curved because you're always walking in a circle. And it's crazy. You go because you really believe that's what they would build.
It's boring bureaucracy, but it's floating.
Yeah, and you'd run into some asshole French guy who would say like, "Aren't you? What is the story going on?" And it'd just be boring bureaucrats. Mm-hmm. But again, it sells you the idea we're really here. There's something at stake here.
So let's.
The scene where he explodes himself back into the ship is just amazing.
This is the crazy thing about this movie is that it's a strange abstract suggestion of being itself, and then it's a space movie, just a fucking satisfying space movie, and then it's a mystery, a strange mystery, and then it's a horror movie, a fucking horror movie, and then it's a action film like how David survives. And then it ends as just a fucking art house, nutty, crazy, psycho, what the fuck, philosophical painting.